A man is furious when he discovers that a maid at his hotel has violated his contract because she is pregnant, so he fires her. Little does he know that the pregnancy he is furious about will change his life forever. That morning was eerily quiet. Heather opened her eyes, but there was nothing but a sense of emptiness in her heart. The white walls of the small room looked even more oppressive. Heather caressed her belly, feeling the baby's slight movement. A sad smile touched his lips. "Today is another day, my little angel. Let's fight together," she whispered, getting up from the bed. She put on her uniform, a perfect disguise to hide her pregnancy, and looked at herself in the mirror. His eyes were surrounded by dark circles, the result of sleepless nights, and his expression was one of pure determination. Heather knew she had to keep going, even if every step felt like a battle. Arriving at the seaside paradiso, Heather felt the weight of the contract she had signed. Single mothers are not qualified for the position. These words echoed in his mind constantly. She took a deep breath and entered the hotel, trying to ignore the prying eyes of her colleagues. The hours passed slowly as Heather went about her chores, cleaning rooms and hallways. She felt the first signs of fatigue and knew she needed a break, but she couldn't afford to be seen as lazy. It was then that everything fell apart. As she was leaving a suite, without her usual baggy coat, Heather came face to face with Mr. Faulkner. He watched her with a fixed, icy gaze, her face turning into a mask of fury. "Are you pregnant?" he asked, his voice full of contempt. Heather felt a chill down her spine. "No, it's not what you think, please," she pleaded, but it was too late. "My office." 10 minutes, he ordered. Before turning abruptly, Heather felt a wave of panic. What would become of her and her baby? She knew that losing that job meant losing everything. Trembling, she entered Mr. Faulkner's office, where her fate would be decided. "You're fired," he shouted, without giving her a chance to explain. Heather left the office with tears in her eyes, but before she could reach the exit, a sharp pain made her bend over. His water had broken. She collapsed to the ground, and the world around her began to fade. Mr. Faulkner, for all his anger and contempt, could not ignore the gravity of the situation. He rushed her to the hospital, a decision that would change their lives forever. In that waiting room, as he waited for news of Heather and the baby, something inside him began to change. It was the beginning of a transformation he had never imagined. The silence of the hospital seemed to stifle Mr. Faulkner as he waited outside the operating room. His hardened face was beginning to show signs of genuine concern. He never imagined that one day he would be there, waiting for news of a pregnant maid he had just fired. What's more, that he now turned out to be a crucial piece in a puzzle bigger than he could have predicted. Finally, the nurse left with a comforting smile. "The new mother and the baby are fine. She had a boy." Mr. Faulkner let out a sigh of relief. "Can I see her?" "Of course, she will be transferred to the infirmary soon." When he entered the infirmary, he saw Heather holding her baby with a tenderness he could barely comprehend. He approached with hesitant steps, trying to find the right words. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice softer than he intended. "Yes, thank you," Heather replied, without looking up. "I shouldn't have hidden the truth. Sorry." Mr. Faulkner found himself disarmed by the simplicity of the answer. "Do you need to call someone? Your husband? Family?" Heather shook her head, her eyes teary. "I have no one. The father of my baby, he left us, and I'm an orphan." The revelation hit him like a punch. He picked up the phone and, in a trembling voice, asked, "Do you have his number? Maybe he'll change his mind." Heather recited the number, and when Mr. Faulkner saw the name that appeared on the screen, his heart almost stopped. "Josh Faulkner, your child." The father of Heather's baby was her own irresponsible son. "This is a nightmare," he muttered, feeling the anger simmering under his skin. "I'm going to have a talk with him." Minutes later, Josh arrived at the hospital, his face confused and pale. "Dad? What's going on?" Mr. Faulkner stared at him, holding the baby in his arms. "You're going to be a dad, Josh, and I won't let you run away from this responsibility. Time to grow." Josh swallowed, staring at the baby with wide eyes. Heather watched the scene, feeling a mixture of fear and hope. At that moment, everyone's life was about to change forever. The atmosphere in the ward was tense. Heather held her baby tightly, while Josh stared at his father, not knowing how to react. Mr. Faulkner, his eyes fixed on his son, could hardly contain his anger. "You let me down, Josh," Mr. Faulkner began, his voice charged with frustration. "How could you abandon Heather and our grandson? What happened to you?" Josh looked away, embarrassed. "I wasn't ready to be a father. I didn't want that responsibility." "That's no excuse," cried Mr. Faulkner. "Do you think you can just run away when the going gets tough? Life doesn't work like that, son." Heather, feeling the tension build, intervened softly. "Please, Mr. Faulkner, yelling won't solve anything. We need to find a solution to this, for the sake of the baby." Mr. Faulkner took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "Heather is right. But Josh, you need to understand that your actions have consequences. This baby is your responsibility too." Josh, visibly shaken, looked at Heather and the baby. I don't know what to do. I never thought I'd be in this situation." Heather felt a twinge of compassion. "Josh, I don't expect you to solve everything at once, but we need to work together to take care of our child. He deserves it." Mr. Faulkner watched the scene, feeling a mixture of pride and regret. "Josh, you're not alone in this. I'll help, but you need to take your part." Josh nodded slowly, still trying to process it all. "I'm going to try. I want to do the right thing." Heather smiled, a shy smile but full of hope. "That's all I ask." From that moment on, a new dynamic began to form. Mr. Faulkner, Heather, and Josh were bonded by a new life, and together, they would need to face the challenges that would come. As they left the hospital, Mr. Faulkner made a silent promise to himself. He would do anything to protect his grandson and make sure his son didn't repeat his mistakes. The Faulkner house has never seemed so crowded. Heather, now installed in the guest room, was trying to adapt to her new reality. Josh, though still hesitant, was there, helping as he could. Mr. Faulkner watched everything with a watchful eye, determined to keep his promise to protect his grandson and guide his son. One morning, while Heather was nursing Terry, Mr. Faulkner came into the room. "How's it going?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Heather smiled. "We are fine, Mr. Faulkner. Terry is a quiet baby, though. Please call me Richard," he said, sitting next to her. "Are you adapting well?" "Yes, Richard. I know this is all new to you and Josh. I thank you for letting me stay here." Richard nodded. "It's the least I can do. I want you to know that we're in this together. I'll make sure you and Terry have everything you need." Heather felt a wave of relief. "Thank you, Richard. It means a lot to me." Later that same day, Richard called Josh in for a serious talk. Sitting in the office, he looked at his son and said, "Josh, it's time for you to take on more responsibility. I know this is difficult for you, but you need to grow." Josh sighed, running his hand through his hair. "I know, Dad. I'm trying, but I still feel lost." "I know you can do it, son. Let's start small. I want you to spend more time with Heather and Terry. Learn to take care of it. It's the only way you can really understand what it means to be a father." Josh agreed, even if somewhat reluctantly. Over the next few days, he began to become more involved, learning how to change diapers, feed Terry, and gradually build a bond with his son. Heather, seeing this effort, began to feel a spark of hope. One night, while watching Josh lullaby Terry to sleep, Heather came over. "You're doing well, Josh. Terry needs you, and so do I." Josh looked at her, his eyes full of sincerity. "I'm trying, Heather. I'm going to do my best to be a good father." Heather smiled, feeling a new connection form between them. Richard, watching from afar, knew there was still a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, he felt they were on the right track. Together, they would face any challenge that arose, like a true family. The days passed quickly at the Faulkners' house. Heather began to feel more at ease, while Josh worked hard to learn the responsibilities of being a father. Richard, though firm, showed silent support, watching each progress closely. One afternoon, while Heather and Josh were in the park with Terry, an important conversation unfolded. Josh, holding the baby in his arms, looked at Heather and said, "I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but I want to do it right. I want to be there for Terry and for you." Heather, touched by Josh's sincerity, softly replied, "I believe in you, Josh. But we need to build that trust together. It won't be easy, but I'm willing to try." As they talked, Richard watched from afar, feeling a mixture of pride and apprehension. He knew that the road ahead would be full of challenges, but he was determined to see his son grow up and take on his responsibilities. Back at home, during dinner, Richard decided to broach a sensitive subject. "Josh, Heather, we have to discuss the future of you and Terry. We need to think about long-term plans." Josh nodded, understanding the gravity of the conversation. "Dad, I know I have a lot to prove. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to secure Terry's future." Heather, sitting next to Josh, added, "I want to go back to school and work to give our son a better life. But I need time and support to do that." Richard, listening intently, replied, "Let's work on it together. Heather, you will have our support to go back to school. Josh, you need to prepare yourself to take on more responsibilities at work and at home." The days turned into weeks, and the routine at the Faulkner household began to stabilize. Josh took a more active role in his father's company, while Heather devoted time to online studies. Richard found himself reflecting on his own past, determined to right the wrongs through his son's actions. One night, while Richard and Josh were in the office, a heated argument arose. "Dad, I'm trying, but it's a lot of pressure at once." Richard, trying to contain his frustration, replied, "I know it's hard, Josh, but you can't give up. Terry and Heather need you. I need you." Josh, feeling the weight of expectations, took a deep breath. "I'm not going to give up. I'm going to prove that I can be the man everyone expects me to be." With those words, Josh's resolve solidified. He knew that the road would be long and full of obstacles, but for the first time, he was ready to take on any challenge. With the support of Heather and Richard, he was determined to build a better future for his family, one step at a time. Time passed, bringing significant changes to the Faulkner household. Josh was intensely dedicated to his work and his responsibilities as a father. Heather, for her part, divided her time between taking care of Terry and studying to complete her degree. Richard, watching everything closely, felt more and more confident in the family's future. One morning, as Josh was getting ready to leave for work, Heather called him into the kitchen. "Josh, we need to talk." Josh, worried, stopped and looked at her. "What's wrong, Heather?" "I'm thinking of resuming my studies in person. I need to get out of the house for a while, have some time for myself and advance in my career." Josh was thoughtful. "I get it, Heather, but that means we'll need more help with Terry." Richard, who was listening to the conversation from across the room, intervened. "We can hire a nanny to help. Heather, I fully support your decision to go back to school." Heather smiled, relieved. "Thank you, Richard. It means a lot to me." As the weeks passed, the new routine began to take shape. A nanny was hired to take care of Terry during the day, allowing Heather to resume her studies. Josh, while still struggling with his own insecurities, began to excel in the company, gaining Richard's trust. However, an emotional storm was about to hit them. One night, while everyone was gathered for dinner, Josh received a call that changed the mood in the room. It was their mother, the woman who had abandoned them years ago. "Josh, I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" said the voice on the other end of the line. Josh was astonished. "Mom? Where are you? Why are you calling now?" Heather and Richard, watching Josh's expression, realized something was wrong. "Who is it?" asked Richard, his voice strained. "It's my mother," Josh replied, still in shock. "She wants to meet with me." Silence took over the room. Richard felt a mixture of anger and pain. "She abandoned us, Josh. Why does he want to talk to you now?" Josh, confused, looked to Heather for support. "I don't know, Dad, but I think I need to find out." Heather held Josh's hand. "If you think you should go, go. But go with an open heart. It can be an opportunity to resolve issues from the past." With that, Josh decided to find his mother, despite the conflicting feelings. He knew that in order to move forward and be the father and man he wanted, he needed to confront his past. And so, with Heather and Richard by his side, he prepared to face the emotional storm that was to come, hoping that, this time, he would find answers and, perhaps, some peace. Josh was nervous, as he drove to the cafe where he had arranged to meet his mother. His hands were sweating on the steering wheel, and his mind was full of unanswered questions. Heather and Richard had insisted that he didn't have to face it alone, but Josh knew this was a step he needed to take on his own. Upon arriving, he spotted a woman sitting at a corner table, her features familiar but aged by time. As she approached, she looked up and smiled shyly. "Josh, my dear," she said, her voice trembling. "Mom," Josh replied, trying to control the emotions that bubbled up inside him. "Why now? Why after so many years?" She sighed, her eyes filling with tears. "I know I owe you a lot of explanations. When I left you and your father, I was lost, confused. I made wrong choices and paid dearly for them. But I never stopped thinking about you, about how you were." Josh felt a mixture of anger and compassion. "You can't just show up and expect everything to be fine. You broke our family." "I know, and I am deeply sorry for that," she said, her voice filled with remorse. "But I want to make amends, if you allow me. I want to meet my grandson, be part of his life again." Josh took a deep breath, trying to process it all. "This is not going to be easy. My father, he never got over what you did." "I understand," she replied softly, "but I'm willing to try. I know I have a long way to go to rebuild your trust." As Josh reflected on her words, he realized that this was a healing opportunity not only for him, but for his entire family. "Okay," he said finally, "we can try. But you'll have to earn our trust again, one step at a time." Upon returning home, Josh found Heather and Richard waiting anxiously. He told all about the meeting, and despite Richard's initial reluctance, he agreed to give a chance for rapprochement. With Josh's mother back in their lives, the family dynamic began to slowly change. Richard, though skeptical, watched closely as she tried to regain her place. Heather offered Josh support, helping him navigate the complex emotions that arose. The following days were marked by tense encounters, but also by moments of hope. Josh realized that by facing the past, he was beginning to build a stronger future, not just for himself and Terry, but for the whole family. Heather and Richard were by his side, and together, they were determined to overcome any challenge that came their way. The return of Josh's mother brought a mix of tension and hope to the Faulkner family. The first few weeks were difficult, filled with hesitant encounters and cautious conversations. Richard, despite his initial skepticism, tried to keep an open mind, mainly because of Josh and Terry. One night, while everyone was gathered in the living room, Josh's mother, Lydia, decided it was time to reveal the truth behind his departure. "I know you have a lot of questions and you deserve answers," she began, her voice charged with emotion. "At the time I left you, I was struggling with an addiction. I was lost and I didn't want to drag you into my darkness." Richard, visibly shaken, replied, "You could have asked for help, Lydia. We could have faced this together." Lydia wiped a tear down her face. "I was too proud, and in my twisted mind, I thought I was protecting you. I went to a rehab facility and spent years trying to rebuild myself. When I finally felt strong enough to go back, I was afraid of being rejected." Josh, sitting next to Heather, asked, "And why did you decide to come back now?" Lydia looked at Terry, who was playing on the floor. "I heard about Terry's birth and realized that I couldn't miss the chance to meet my grandson. I needed to try to rebuild our family." Heather, who had been listening silently until then, interjected, "I believe everyone deserves a second chance, Lydia. But this reconstruction will not be easy. Are you willing to put in the work of it?" Lydia nodded vigorously. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes." From that moment on, the Faulkner family began to work on rebuilding their ties. Lydia actively participated in Terry's life, helping Heather with daily care and taking every moment to reconnect with Josh. Richard, though still cautious, began to notice the sincerity in Lydia's actions. One day, while Lydia was playing with Terry in the park, Richard came over. "You're really trying hard," he said, breaking the silence. Lydia smiled hopefully. "I am, Richard. I want to be a part of their lives again, and I thank you for giving me this chance." Richard sighed, finally allowing some of his anger to dissipate. "Let's see where this takes us, Lydia. For Josh and Terry, I'm willing to try." With this initial truce, the Faulkner family began to take significant steps toward reconciliation. Lydia knew there was still a long way to go, but with determination and love, she was willing to rebuild the bonds that were once broken. And so, each member of the family began to realize that, despite adversity, there is always hope for a new beginning. The months that followed Lydia's return were full of challenges, but also moments of deep understanding and growth. The Faulkner family, once torn apart, began to rebuild, brick by brick, gesture by gesture. Richard and Lydia began to talk more often. During these conversations, many hurts were remembered and, little by little, they began to be healed. In one of these conversations, Richard finally found the courage to express what he had kept for years. "Lydia," he began, his voice trembling, "I never thought I could forgive you for leaving us. But seeing you with Terry, realizing how much you've changed and are willing to be a part of our lives, it made me rethink a lot of things." Lydia, with tears in her eyes, replied, "Richard, I know my words cannot erase the past, but I am deeply sorry. I hope that one day you can really forgive me." Richard stared at her, and in a gesture of reconciliation, held out his hand. "Let's try, Lydia. For us, for Josh, for Terry." Meanwhile, Josh and Heather continued to strengthen their relationship. Josh, now more mature and responsible, was determined to be the father Terry deserved and the partner Heather had always needed. One night, as they put Terry to sleep, Josh held Heather's hand. "I was lost, Heather, but you and Terry gave me a reason to fight. I want you to know that I'm here for you, always." Heather smiled, moved. "We're here for you too, Josh. We are a family, and we will face everything together." Lydia, watching this scene from afar, felt a surge of gratitude and hope. She knew that the road to redemption was still long, but she was ready for every step. On Terry's one-year anniversary, the family gathered for an intimate celebration. Seeing them all together, Lydia realized that, despite all the mistakes of the past, she had achieved something incredible. She had brought her family back together. During dinner, Richard raised a toast. "To the Faulkners, and to all the challenges we overcame. May we continue to grow together, with love and understanding." Lydia, moved, added, "And to the future, may we build on the foundations of forgiveness and hope." The family toasted, united by renewed ties and promises of a better future. Despite all the difficulties, they were ready to face whatever came together. The sun rose over the seaside paradiso, illuminating the hotel with a golden light that reflected the Faulkner family's new beginnings. The last night had been a celebration of love, forgiveness, and hope. But today, a new challenge awaited Richard, Lydia, Josh, Heather, and little Terry. Richard had decided to hand over the management of the hotel to Josh and Heather. "It's time to pass the baton," he said, gathered with his family in the office. "You both have proven that you have the strength and determination to do so." Heather looked at Josh, her eyes shining with pride. "We are ready to take on this responsibility. We will continue the family legacy with integrity and passion." As they signed the transfer papers, Lydia watched, full of emotion. Her journey of redemption was complete, but she knew the hard work was just beginning. "I'll be here to help with whatever it takes," she said, holding Richard's hand. With everything official, the new phase of their lives began. Josh and Heather took the reins of the seaside paradiso, bringing new ideas and a refreshing energy. Heather, with her creative vision, and Josh, with his leadership skills, set out to transform the hotel into an even more desirable destination. Guests noticed the difference. "This place feels more welcoming," commented one regular. "There's a new spirit here." And it wasn't just the hotel that thrived. The relationship between Richard and Lydia continued to grow. They walked through the hotel garden every morning, talking about the past and making plans for the future. "Life gave us a second chance, Lydia. Let's make the most of it." Terry, now 2 years old, was everyone's joy. He ran through the corridors of the hotel, his laughter filling the room with contagious happiness. Each member of the family found solace and purpose in him, seeing in him the promise of a bright future. On the one-year anniversary of the new management, the Faulkner family organized a big party at the hotel. They invited friends, employees, and guests to celebrate. During the party, Richard gave an emotional speech. "Today, we celebrate not only a successful year at the seaside paradiso, but also the strength of love and forgiveness. My family went through difficult times, but we managed to unite and overcome everything. And for that, I'm eternally grateful." Lydia, by his side, added, "To the future, may it be full of joy, love, and success. And may we always remember the power of family and forgiveness." As everyone toasted, the Faulkner family knew that despite all the hardships and obstacles, they had found their way back to each other. And with that, they were ready for whatever the future brought, united and stronger than ever. Let us know what you think of this story and share this story with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them. See you in the next exciting story.